superintendent. Actually, I have already requested, and I would like to know how many parents have been arrested on TUSD property for trespassing. I would also like to request that Dr. Sanchez directly address the issue of not having a crossing guard at many different schools, and also the issue of ESI. It would be nice for us to have a broken down report as to what the benefit is to the students of outsourcing to ESI when it seems that there has not been a benefit to the substitute teachers, particularly the long-term substitute teachers, and those are official requests for the superintendent. Thank you.
Any other board members? Ms. Grajova?
Yeah. Mr. Hicks, I just wanted to acknowledge that what we've been doing is the superintendent acknowledges students for awards and that kind of thing at the first regular meeting of the month. This is the organizational meeting, so usually these meetings take 5 minutes. And that's just one time a year, but most of the time, those are all in the superintendent's report. And so I did actually request of staff to send out letters to any articles that I saw of students that received awards and acknowledgement. But, staff was not, school was closed until yesterday. And so I anticipate that there'll be letters coming just because I did request them beforehand. So congratulations on your award, and I anticipate that you'll be coming to a board meeting soon. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Stop it.
Okay. Any other? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to action item number 3, approval of the 2017 regular and special business meeting schedules for the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board. Dr. Stegeman.
So I'd like to treat these as separate items. The regular meeting schedule, I have I'm going to end up making that motion, but I have several relatively minor amendments I'd like to make to what was posted online, which I'll distribute to the board and read into the record. So this is simply the item where we schedule our monthly meeting as required by statute. So the language that I'm adding is that where it says, thank you for putting this up, this is helpful. So in the line 3, when it says unless otherwise posted, I want to add by the written direction of the board president, consistent with the statutory requirement for a monthly meeting. And I'm adding that because there has been some controversy in the past about who has the authority to cancel a meeting. And I would like to clarify that and naturally vest that in the board president. Secondly, I'm going to, in my motion, move the March 14th meeting to March 7th because March 14th is in the middle of UA's spring break and 2 of us may be gone. And finally, at the end, I'm going to add the sentence in my motion that the January 17th agenda in particular shall include study action on board policies BEDB and BEDBA and other items scheduled to the normal agenda process. It is critical for the board to act directly on the flaws in the agenda policy, and so I'm going to read into the motion that we will address those items at the next regular meeting. So I will make the motion with those 3 adjustments: the cancellation rule, the change, I'll make the motion and we can discuss it if people want, the change in the date of the March meeting, and the provision about January 17th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion in regards?
Mr. Hicks, I don't have an issue necessarily with changing the meeting dates. I do, however, wonder why we need to read into the record that we're going to have a discussion on BEDBA or BDBA when my understanding is that that's already on the agenda to be considered for the 17th or on a list of items. And if it isn't, respectfully, Mr. Hicks, you can put them on. I just don't know why that has to be read into the record on an item that is regarding meeting schedules.
Mr. Hicks?
Ms. Foster.
I would like to ask legal counsel if it's even appropriate, because this is the meeting schedule, and so to add agenda items, I don't believe that's on at all related to this action item to approve the calendar of our scheduled meetings.
President Hicks, Ms. Foster, and board members, the comments made by Dr. Stegman are within the limits of this item, given that it does specifically pertain to the development of the governing board's schedule, and that policy also pertains to the same.
Thank you.
I think it's permissible.
Thank you.
Mr. Hicks?
Yes, Dr. Sanchez.
Just to bring to the board's attention so that the board doesn't have to unnecessarily schedule another meeting, October 17th doesn't work for the annual financial report. It has to be approved by the board by the 15th. So changing the date to October 17th, we do need to have a meeting prior to October 17th unless the board would like to schedule a meeting just for the purpose of approving the annual financial report.
Members of the board,
Mr. Hicks?
Dr. Stegman.
Well, that point's well taken. Unfortunately, I'm not looking at a calendar. So on the special meeting agenda, we currently have a meeting proposed. We haven't done that motion yet for October 3rd. Now, what we could do, I guess, is I could amend my motion to say that the October 17th meeting will be on October 10th. Would that satisfy your concern?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, if the seconder will take that amendment, then I'll make that amendment.
I'll take it.
Does the seconder?
I will. I still second, yes.
Is that the fall break?
So that's my motion and is amended.
No, but I-
What was originally indicated as an October 17th meeting will be October 10th in my motion.
Ms. Grijalva?
Mr. Hicks, is October 10th during fall break?
Sylvia's saying yes.
Yes, it's during fall break, and so I don't think that we should have a regular meeting during the fall break.
Well,
I think that's why it was scheduled
For the 3rd?
the third Tuesday.
oh, right, okay, well, I think I'm sorry,
Yeah, Dr.
I jumped ahead.
Stegman.
I mean, Dr. Sanchez has raised a valid issue. We could hope to have it addressed by, okay, so I'd say either we could try to have it done by October 3rd, or as we get closer to the date, we can schedule a special meeting.
October 3rd would be fine instead of October 3rd being we can put October 3rd on this so everybody knows it's for annual financial report, regular meeting. That would work out fine. We can get it done by then.
Okay, and as I say, we can always schedule a special meeting if there's some particular exigency. So now, if the seconder will allow me, I will put October 17th back where it was.
I'll second that motion as well.
Okay.
So, okay, if we can, so it's my understanding for October, it'll be back to October 3rd.
17th.
No,
But the
'cause-
idea would be that we will deal with the budget revision on October 3rd. That would be the aspiration.
Okay, and board members, anyone else have so it's my understanding that we'll call a special meeting specifically to address the budget.
If we need to.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a
Yes,
first.
sir, it's correct.
So, Mr. Hicks,
Mrs. Foster.
so just to clarify, so we're scheduling October 3rd and October 17th?
No, my understanding is only October 17th.
Right, that's right.
Excuse me, Mr. Hicks, I couldn't understand.
Yes.
You were interrupted.
It's my
It's October
understanding,
3rd?
it's my understanding that it's only going to be October 17th, and then a special, if we need to, if it's not done by September 12th, we'll schedule a special board meeting for the discussion of the budget.
On the 17th.
No, because it has to be done on
Right.
the 15th.
Okay, thank you.
Am I correct?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Miss-
Hicks, could I ask that so this is the draft, not the one that everyone is looking at? This is the initial draft, or is this the one that was modified by Mr. Hicks? I'm sorry, Dr.
Miss-
Stegman. These are all initial dates?
The yellow copy is Dr. Stegman.
No, I understand, but what we're seeing on the screen is,
Different.
it was what was in the
That was-
packet. Thank you. Okay, so we're going with the initial, the 17th
The 14th.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're all clear on what we're voting on.
Okay, but we did change on March to March 7th, correct? Okay,
Yeah.
Dr. Stegman.
So just for clarity, we are voting on the revised motion that I distributed to the board with the 3 substantive changes, which are indicated for us. You can't see it, but in strikeout text, but as I read to the public.
And if I can ask if our secretary understands the motion?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Ms. Grijalba?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes?
Dr. Stegeman?
Yes?
Mr. Hicks?
Yes. Yeah, Dr. Stegman.
So then, next we have the schedule of special meetings, and I again have some, I guess, minor changes to suggest to what is on the screen, which is what was posted. I'm proposing that we remove the text at the top, dates reserved for possible special meetings, to resolve the ambiguity about who decides whether we're having a special meeting. We should probably address this in policy eventually, but for the moment, I'm going to suggest that we treat these as regular board meetings in terms of process, and so simply remove the text about dates reserved for possible, and then we will say in the second line that the board will hold special meetings on these dates, then after otherwise posted, just as with the previous item, unless otherwise posted by the written direction of the board president. So just as with regular meetings, the board president would be the person empowered to cancel these meetings. Then to say additional special meetings may be scheduled by action of the board, instead of saying based on need and board members' availability, which is again vague. So that say that the board alone can schedule a special meeting. Again, we may want to address this differently in policy eventually. And then I would like to add, because we have quite a lot of items to consider over the next few weeks, and we have also been exhibiting an unfortunate habit of running past 10 o'clock, I would like to add to the proposed list, a special meeting on January 24th. Of course, if that proves to be unnecessary, then the board president can cancel it. So those are my changes in substance, to say that we will have these meetings unless the board president cancels them, that only the board can schedule additional special meetings, and to add one on January 24th. And I will make the motion as so modified.
Yeah, I
I'll
have a
second.
Thank you. So Dr. Stegman,
Mr. Hicks?
hold on 1 second, please. Are we?
And I did
That's
just
okay.
give this to the board now, so
Right.
it's understandable if people want to take a minute.
Are you okay, Sylvia?
My apologies. Who
that's
seconded that motion, please?
Okay, Ms.
Ms.
Sedgwick, second. Ms. Foster.
So just to clarify, then these dates that are here, you are suggesting to add January 24th, but then these are calendared meetings. Anything above and beyond this then would be required board approval.
Yes, that is my proposal.
And so really, this is very similar to what we've done, which is every other week. And so be requiring action of the board if another meeting, as opposed to just the superintendent and the board president?
Yeah, that is.
To schedule
Yes, this
another
is,
meeting.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hicks.
Dr.
I'm speaking.
Stegman.
Yeah, so we have a gap in policy. It's not clear about how meetings get scheduled and canceled, and so I think we need to address that in a permanent way, but that's not on the agenda tonight, so I'm simply trying to clarify it here, that for the moment, until the board decides otherwise, only the board can schedule additional meetings.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other board members?
Mr.
Ms.
Hicks,
Grijalba?
I may not be able to be here on the 24th
Of January?
of January, and I may not be able to be on the phone, but I guess we can cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
And then Mr. Hicks, another question, please.
Ms. Foster?
Had correspondence today with our board secretary about a meeting on January 17th. Is that still scheduled?
We did in the previous motion.
Dr. Stegman?
That was on the previous
That's listed
motion.
on
Thank
the
you.
I'm sorry,
Right.
I
Thank you.
apologize, Mr. Hicks, I jumped.
So that means we are meeting every Tuesday in January? January 10th right now, next the 17th, and then on the 24th, and then the 31st?
That's what it looks like.
I guess I'm just wondering why we need 4 meetings in January.
But it's my, Dr. Stegman.
We really have had a problem of running past 10 o'clock, and I think it's better, which is a burden on staff, a burden on the public, and I really would like to get us to where we are adjourning at 10 o'clock, and I would rather have more meetings and shorter meetings than continue that practice. And as we heard, there are quite a few things to come up in the near future. And the board president can cancel. If it turns out we get all our business done without these meetings, then the board president can cancel them.
Ms. Foster?
Well, I'm not going to support having 4 board meetings in January. You work full-time, I work full-time. I'm not going to do 4 board meetings in January, so I won't support that.
Okay.
Mr. Hicks?
Ms. Grijalva?
I just want to note that April 25th, there's the Pan-Asian recognition on that date, same date that we're proposing a special meeting.
I'm
On
sorry.
April 25th, 2017, which would mean that none of us would be able to attend that meeting, which I think is problematic. And
Dr. Stegman, it's your,
Well, I have no objection to moving that to April 17th. That does not correspond to our spring break, and I know of no other conflicts, so that's a fair point. And unless someone else has a reason why April 17th doesn't work.
Passover.
Oh, that's why,
That's why it was
That's why it's
changed.
sorry.
from the 11th to the 18th.
I'm not, yes. So that doesn't work, or at least if we follow recent practice, that doesn't work. So I think Ms. Grijalva's point is good. I'm not sure how we're going to resolve it now, and I guess I would suggest that we adopt the motion as stated, but if we can figure out a solution, I would be receptive to that later. I think it's a fair point. We'd like to attend our special ceremonies. But since I don't see a solution immediately on the table, I'll leave the motion as made
With the April 25th?
with the April 25th, but maybe we can find a solution later.
wait, Mr. Hicks?
Yeah, Ms.
I won't be
Grijalva.
able to vote for that because I think that those recognition items, they sent us the date in September of this last year, and I think that that was on purpose for us to be able to schedule time to attend, and so I won't be able to vote for those.
President Hicks?
Ms. Sedgwick?
It's my understanding that the April 25th meeting was on the original agenda item that was given to us.
Right.
So Dr. Stegman has not actually changed that date.
No, and I still, Mr. Hicks, and I still would have had the same issue. Just
Okay.
the issue is the same regardless of who brought the date forward.
Thank you. Dr. Stegman?
If Ms. Grijalva has an alternative date, I'd be happy to consider it. And if she doesn't have it now, I'd be happy to consider it later. I think it's a fair point, but I don't know how to resolve it on the instant, right at this moment.
I don't either.
Well, I believe through this, it would have to come back to the board for the special meeting.
Sure, we could put that on an agenda and change that later.
Ms. Grijalva?
I mean, I won't vote for it, but it seems like it would pass anyway, so
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Hicks,
Ms. Foster?
could I ask the superintendent why we have October 3rd and the 31st, why we have 2 special meetings in October? Because then now this would show 3 October meetings.
The third was, again, in anticipation of the annual financial report.
Right, that's
Right.
Excuse-
But that was,
Right.
right.
And so moving forward, we have October 10th, as a regular meeting?
The third would be just a single item. So the third would just be the annual financial report unless board members and the board president decided to add more items to it.
But it's still 3 meetings
Yes,
in
ma'am.
October.
Thank you. Board members? So we have a first and a second, or a motion and a second. Sylvia can have a roll call vote. Or first, I'm sorry, you understand the motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Grijalva?
No.
Ms. Foster?
No,
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Dr. Stegeman?
Yes.
Mr. Hicks?
Yes. Motion passes. We're moving on to item 4, authorization of superintendent or in the superintendent's absence, the superintendent's designee to be the representative of Tucson Unified School District Number 1 for the purpose of executing documents pertaining to applications for federal funds which have been approved by the board.
so moved.
I'll
Ms. Foster
second.
moves, Ms. Grijalva seconds.
I
Discussion?
actually have a question.
Ms. Sedgwick?
I apologize. I have a question.
Yeah, I called on you.
Oh, so can you explain this a little bit, please? I wonder, for anyone in the audience who might be like myself, not quite understanding, can you give us an example about what kinds of applications for federal funds that might have been approved by the board that you're asking for authority to sign?
Dr. Sanchez?
Sure. So each year, the district receives Title I funds from the federal government. The superintendent, as the administrator for the board, signs on those documents to send them in to the federal government, so that way the federal government can send the funds to the district for distribution to the different programs that they support. Those funds are approved by the board a priori to my signature as the item states. That's an example. Another example would be Individual Disability Education Act funds, IDA funds. Another example would be the Perkins funds, which are for career and technical education.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Board members? All in favor?
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Item 5, authorization for